We teach girls to shrink themselves, to make themselves smaller. We say to girls, you can have ambition, but not too much. You should aim to be successful, but not too successful, otherwise you will threaten the man. We raise girls to see each other as competitors, not for jobs or for accomplishments, which I think can be a good thing, but for the attention of men.
Women being treated as objects happens every single day.
I would define the phrase women treated as objects as when someone, typically a man, treats a woman in a way where they have no regard for their feelings and emotions and use them for their own benefit and pleasure.
And they think that they can just own them and be like, oh, she's pretty, I want to date her, like, she's mine, I feel like you shouldn't say that about someone. Like, maybe if you see, like, a shirt in the store, you're like, oh, that's mine, like, I want it, like, I'm gonna buy it, like, I want it. Like, men shouldn't think about women in that way, and if a man does think about a woman that way, then he doesn't deserve the woman that he's talking about.
It's dehumanizing. So like, whereas you might see a man as like an individual who has their own rights and responsibilities, some people might see a woman as just something, something, not someone, that has to be taken care of and has to be respected, but like the way that you would respect a flower. Not the way that you would respect another human being.
It sort of means you treat them as if they are not a person and they're just whatever they look like on the outside, so their physical appearance, whether it's like how they dress or the shape of their body, and you make assumptions about who they are based on that instead of actually getting to know them as a person.
I think there's like a clear case where you can tell if a guy's just complimenting you or kind of objectifying you in that way.
If a guy comes up to you and says, those pants really look good on you. I mean, it's like weird, but then it's not like, not disrespectful. But if a guy comes up to you and says like, damn girl, look at that ass in those jeans, then that's a whole nother story.
Even if someone is respecting a woman, for example, but respecting them in a way that they wouldn't respect a man just because they're women and treating them differently because of that.
Because I'm a girl, like, you can just basically do whatever you want to me, and like that I don't have an opinion or feelings.
And we get tired easier or more emotional or whatever. Like, these things would never be said about a man.
The media can create people, but especially women, as things that are meant to be seen and not necessarily heard. Like, you'll see like shampoo commercials or mascara commercials where it's all about what a woman looks like and not about anything that's more than skin deep.
Movies, TVs, you see these characters that are whittled down to nothing and just sort of used as they're literally used as objects. They're used as objects. They're used as sort of just a way for another character to get what they want. And then we see that on our TVs every day, and then in fictional shows, and then how are we supposed to act any different in real life?
My name is Sarah Toops, but I go by Sarati mostly. It's my stage name. I live out in Los Angeles, California. I am originally from College Station, Texas, and have lived here in LA for 5 years now. I am an actress and dancer and singer and fitness model out here. And it's definitely a different world where I live.
This bee, she's so big, she's got booty in her sheets. Watch your back, she's a beast, she's a freak, this bee, she's so big, make you chit-chat when she speaks. She's so fat, the room can't breathe, she's obese, she just eats.
Then I moved out here at 16, and I met my manager of my music at that time. And in the entertainment industry, you're treated like an object. everything out here is an illusion. So you think everyone's happy and rich and on TV and stuff, and it is an absolute illusion.
And in this industry, as an actress, it's so sad. I mean, like, I can't tell you how many auditions I've not even been able to go on because they say specifically in the audition notice that if you're not willing to be 100% naked in front of camera, that they don't even want to see you. And I had a male counterpart tell me that, you know, sexism was just as bad for men. And I was like, tell me how many auditions you've ever turned down because you wouldn't be willing to be 100% naked in front of the camera. And he just kind of sat there, and I was like, is it 0? And he was like, yeah. I was like, yeah. For me, it happens all the time. All the time. Like, I can't even be eligible for the job because I'm not willing to take my clothes off.
That's disgusting.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible. And in some auditions, they have to get you, I've been told, because I turn down every audition that requires nudity, but I've been told by female friends that have gone on those auditions that they make you state on camera which sexual acts you will be comfortable performing in the audition so that the cinematographer and the director can then know how to plan their shots around what you are willing to do as a woman on camera.
My manager came up behind me in a rehearsal and pinched the back of my arm and told me I was too fat and that I needed big boobs and a big butt, but I had to be skinny everywhere else. I couldn't get plastic surgery ever. I was one line away from being a cokehead. I was an uptight, and then he would say curse words to me. I was 16. I had an eating disorder because of it. For the last 2.5 years, I had an eating disorder, and now that I do fitness modeling, I'm great, but every once in a while, I still have trouble with it. When he pinched the back of my arm, it started bleeding and turned black and blue, and I started crying. And I always told him that he would never make me cry because I don't cry about stuff. I'm a very, very tough person. And that was very hard for a 16-year-old because my self-esteem, it left. I hated myself after that. Brutally hated myself. And if I didn't have a faith or people that loved me, like my parents and my brother, I might have committed suicide because I know so many people that have. People are not supposed to put you down and demean you like that because we are human beings. We have souls. We have beating hearts. And for a man to treat you like an object, like something that can be thrown away and replaced, is sickening and makes you not want to live.
Women everywhere experience it all the time. In the end, it's really not even about exactly what happened. Of course, that's important, but it's about the way it emotionally affects the person, because it can really permanently do damage to treat a woman as just what she is physically and not think about the fact that she's a living, breathing human being.
I had a guy, when I first moved out here, that told me he was the most disgusting man. This is when I was waiting tables. And he told me that if I wanted to be a successful actress, I would have to get a boob job. And I was like, oh, really? Because last time I checked, these don't act. And he just kind of sat there, and I was like, yeah. I don't think I got a tip on that table, but I didn't care.
I caught a man taking a picture of my butt when I was walking up the stairs to my apartment complex. In my gated apartment complex, my home, a man was taking a picture of my butt. I had pants on, I had a jacket on, I was fully clothed.
About a month ago, I had caught a person taking pictures of my butt without really my consent, or not that I would have consented to it, but I mean, this person didn't ask me. They were just, taking pictures. And this person had done it before to many other girls. And I just think that it's kind of gross that someone could think that they could just do something like that and think that it's okay.
I turned around and cussed that man out and told him that I would call the police and hunt him down if I ever saw him around my apartment again. And then I walked up my steps, I remember this so vividly, and bawled my eyes out because I was so scared. I felt miserable. I felt like I was trash, that no one cared about me. They just saw me as a body part, as an object that they could take pictures of and use for their pleasure. And that's not how it is.
When you do that, that's, like I said, that's sort of taking away from that girl and taking away who she is, and then making her into just an image on your phone or images on your phone without her permission, which is honestly terrible.
Yesterday, I walked outside of my apartment. There were some guys working on the complex across the street, and I walk out and they start catcalling me, and I got so enraged, but I was like, whatever, I'm not going to comment because they're just here for a day. Mm-hmm. At my old complex, they were building a new apartment across the street, so the guys were there for a really long time. And their little hoist elevator was right outside of my apartment, and that's when I wasn't married, so I was living by myself. Mm-hmm. And every time I would walk out, the men would yell at me, and it got like super personal, where they were clearly directing it to me, and I felt so unsafe because this is a construction site full of men mm-hmm. that now know where I live and know that I live alone because they watch me come and go every day. And so I actually would stand in front of them because there was a big banner at the bottom that had like their boss's number and like the site manager. Mm-hmm. And I would stand outside and call and demand to speak to him. He actually came out personally and talked to me one time, and I was like, just so you know, I will be taking legal action against your parent company if you don't shut this down. And so he eventually shut that down, and they like apologized profusely and gave me a gift card and all this kind of stuff. But I was like, I shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah.
I shouldn't like worry about my personal safety just because I'm a woman.
I would be followed home, and I lived alone, so I never felt safe. I slept with a gun under my pillow. I would call my mom constantly telling her how scared I was.
This one guy that I became friends with pretty quickly, it was 5 weeks into the school year, and he had just gotten my number so that we could text, and the first night that he had my number, I texted him at one point, "Be right back, gotta take a shower," and he said, "Oh, let me see." So I was like, is he asking me for nudes right now? Like, maybe he's just joking, making fun of other guys who do that. I don't know. So I gave him the chance, and I said, please tell me you're joking, giving them a chance at least to say if it was a joke, because I really don't take that stuff lightly. And he said, no, I did say you're attractive. So right then, he told me he was being serious, genuinely asking for pictures of me naked. And I said, I'm not going to send you nudes. Who do you think I am? And he told me a whore. My own friend that I'd known for 5 weeks thought it was okay to call me a whore, and then act like it was all just a joke and he was kidding and being sarcastic. And thought it was acceptable in some way to make a joke like that, even if it was a joke, which it wasn't, clearly. I gave him the chance to say he was joking, and he didn't take it. So he just thought that because I'm a girl, oh, maybe I'll send him nudes, and, if she says no, I can just pretend I was joking, and it'll be fine. Either way, win-win, right? And that's just really unacceptable.
I I have like Tinder, so a lot of the boys on Tinder like they just like look for sex and look for like they ask me a lot of like nude pictures. So like they pretty much I don't know, they just like always ask, they're like, oh like they first like ask like, oh where do you live, like where are you from, like stuff like that. And then they just get into like, oh can I have your Snapchat, and they're like, oh can I have like your nudes, and like I'm just like, no, like, I don't even know you, I'm not gonna give a person I don't even know nudes, like that's so weird. And like and then like if I don't give them what they want, they yell at me like for it. They're like, you're a bitch, you're like ugly, like you're disgusting, I don't even like you anyways. It's like, you obviously were interested. If I gave you my like nudes, then you would be interested.
The first time it happens, you know, you're like, oh, I just, you know, picked a bad one to be friends with, he's a pervert, whatever, done with him. But then it happens again, and you start thinking about it and realizing, you know, am I ever going to have a guy be friends with me because they want to get to know me for my personality and for who I am? Or are they all just doing it for my body? How many times is this going to happen to me? And will I ever be seen by other guys as more than just what I look like?
So many people, they never comment on like, oh, you know, you've accomplished so much or whatever. They're just like, oh, you've got a great, you know, face or whatever. And I'm like, my parents did that. I had absolutely nothing to do with it. And I'll tell them that you appreciate their work. But is there anything that I've actually achieved in my life that you would like to comment on?
It creates the idea that girls are only meant to be seen, and not really talked to so much, that it's all about, oh, you're so pretty. You know, if someone were to compliment me, they might be like, oh, you're very smart, you're very responsible. But if someone were to compliment a woman or a girl who looks, you know, equal, they would be like, oh, you're very pretty, you're beautiful. And the fact that like the highest standard for a guy would be like intelligent, and the higher standard for a girl would be beautiful, it just seems unfair and untrue.
So much of a woman's worth in society is tied to her appearance.
It's really sad to think that a whole half of the population doesn't even want to get to know you because they care about who you are, but they want to because they want to see you naked or get with me.
I've had like a few different types of experiences with like objectifying, like, I don't know, I feel like when you get like beeped at, like when you're walking down a road like with your friends or something by like a guy in a car or whatever, they're like a group of guys and they like are beeping because like you're attractive or whatever, like they don't know you at all, but yet they feel like it's an invitation still based on what you look like to like make a comment about you basically. And also same thing with like catcalling, like if you're like walking down the street and like someone like makes a comment to you solely based on how you look but you don't know them at all.
I didn't notice exactly how much the sexualization of women had perpetuated my everyday life until I got married. Because I would be with my husband and he was like, why are you walking so fast? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're constantly like running to the car, or you're running to wherever we're going. Why are you doing that? And I realized that I would always do that instinctively because I didn't want men to comment on, you know, what I was wearing as if I was wearing it for them.
Yeah.
I didn't to be harassed at all. I didn't want anybody to have the opportunity to do anything to me.
I was so freaked out all the time. And I was afraid that somebody was going to take something from me or hurt me.
Women are not supposed to be treated as like sexual, you know, prodigy and whatever. Like if we wear like off-shoulder shirts or whatever, like that's like, oh my god, you're trying to provoke a guy or stuff like that. Like, not really. I want to wear my shirt. So like we can't do a lot of things because it's like, oh my god, yeah, you're trying to like do something or like provoke men and stuff, and that's just sad. It's just bad.
We see it on non-fictional shows like news shows or any of those gossip magazines or shows where women are only defined by what they wear, how they act, who they sleep with, like without their permission, which you're not asking her. You're labeling her and you're objectifying her and you're making her into something she's not. You're only looking at who she sleeps with, how she dresses.
It's going to take a lot of reconditioning, and it's going to take a lot of people like you making people recognize at a young age that this exists, so that they can start to de-patternize their beliefs and their understandings about how women are supposed to behave and how we should act in society.
A lot of people think that women are trying to be like sexual in a way, like at least I think that what needs to stop is like if you see a woman wearing like off-shoulder shirt, like I said, don't think that they're trying to provoke someone, or like don't think that we're like a sexual product is what I mean.
Something that probably needs to change is just like how men think of women. Like they shouldn't think of them as someone who only stays in the kitchen, takes after the kids, and like they should view women as someone who are like leaders and like just as they would think of other males.
Women have to do some of the work because there's a lot of us who still sort of subscribe to the submissive mentality of like, oh, well, that's just how it is. But most of it has to be done, unfortunately, by the people who are going to be the least willing, and that's the men.
Yep.
And, you know, we have ways of excusing off male behavior. It's just locker room talk, or, oh, that's just the culture. That's just, no, it's sexual harassment.
Making sure that like we sort of change how like women, and this like also applies to men too, but changing how like people are viewed and like sort of make people's first impressions change a little bit and be more about like the first conversation you maybe have with someone and less about the first physical like observation you make about someone. So instead of like just basing your opinion of them off of like how they're dressing or like what their face looks like or their hair or whatever, or the shape of their body, like actually have a conversation and then sort of determine who they are after that.
The only way we can change it is to talk about it. Women need to understand you need to respect yourself. You need to set your standards so high and never change them for anyone. And then the men need to understand that we are not objects. We are human beings. But women, if the guys don't see us as something to be respected because we don't respect ourselves, then they are never going to change.
People need to understand that just because we're women doesn't mean we are worth any less.
Yep.
In fact, we gave you life, so it means that we're worth more. Sorry.
You wake up, post up, round in it, flossing on it. This diamond, my diamond. This rock, my rock. I woke up like